Welcome to the CDP, the Commercial Directors Podcast, where we discuss all things commercial directing, treatments, pitching, problem solving on set, and commercial breakdowns. Now you host Evan Swinehart.
3, 2, 1.
All right, action. Here we go. Welcome to the Commercial Directors Podcast. This is episode 12, and we have Cameron Harris today with Gravy Films on the show. Cameron, thanks so much for joining, and how you doing, man?
Good, man. Thank you for having me. Excited to chat through and talk all about commercial directing.
Heck yeah. Well, you are at top of the game when it comes to commercial directing, and you do a lot of work with celebrities, which we haven't had on the show. So I'm super excited to kind of dig into what set looks like when you're working with big names such as Martin Short, John Cena, Patrick Mahomes, David Beckham, Rob Riggle, Jane Lynch, and many more. So let's just first dive into kind of like how you got into the industry, because your path is really interesting as you first kind of like started on the agency side, working as a creative director with some of the biggest kind of agencies in the game. So kind of just talk about how you got into the industry and became a director.
Yeah, I started in agencies. So my background, sort of like one typical pathway into commercial directing. Coming from the agency side, I spent over a decade working in agencies from New Zealand, where I started at Saatchi & Saatchi Auckland, which is an amazing agency. And then I went to Melbourne, Clemenger BBO, and then Sydney, Leo Burnett. So just did that jumping around, and then finally came to LA, where I was at Crispin, Porum Boguski, which I believe is now just Crispin, I think. And then and that was the pathway, got to the States, and then had the opportunity to basically jump. And I don't know, I guess I like to say same shit, different view, but all of that pathway in really helped build the reel and helped build the understanding of the client and the process, everything that's important to kind of get a successful commercial spot at the end of the day, because it's a gauntlet, and that experience was invaluable.
Did you know you always wanted to be a director, or was it something just like being on set when you were at these agencies, you were like, this is pretty cool?
Well, it's sort of like, it's a bit of that. Like I always kind of like, you'd spend ages and ages and ages working on a campaign, writing a script or whatever, and then, getting through that through multiple rounds of client review, and then you get the script, and then all of a sudden this director takes it. And, sometimes that's great. The director comes in, has an amazing vision, and kind of like believes in it the way that you believe in it, even though you might have had, the idea whittled down or whatever. But a director can come in and then reignite that, right? So you can kind of build it together and be collaborative and make something great. Or it can go the other way, and the director can come in and just be like, annoying, and sort of like, that gets really frustrating. So it's a combination of those two things. Being able to see it all the way through, you know what I mean? And also just this, just this frustration with people, crapping on scripts that we did.
Yeah, for sure. No, it is a really interesting dynamic. Because I also kind of came up through the agency world, and more in like as an editor, but that's kind of like, I think where I had my success working with ad agencies as a director. Yeah. Is because I understand like the agency game and like working with creative directors, and I found that like it's way easier. Like your shoot's gonna go a lot easier if like you're kind of like a collaborator with them and bringing them in and getting them excited versus like, hey, this is my vision, because in reality it's not. It's their commercial. They've been working on this campaign for months, right? And you're coming in just to like basically execute, right? But like you need to be able to add those punch ups and like kind of like maybe give a lens of like, okay, well, here's kind of some trends in filmmaking or whatever in commercial work that they might know about. But like talk about that, like what as a director from your past have you kind of like brought that you think has kind of helped you succeed as a director that like you can attribute to being a creative director?
There's multiple things. I think one of the biggest is the dynamic on set. You know what I mean? Like if it becomes too rigid in the fact that you've got those multiple layers, and like there's Video Village, there's the director, there, and all that sort of stuff. Like, I remember I've got so many stories about producers and look, everyone has their process. My process is different. I like it to be a little bit more chaotic, I guess, in some ways, because, it just, to me, that just helps break down any of the tension and make something great. So, yeah, but everyone has different processes. I think, like, understanding the client's point of view and not being dismissive of that, yes, they're probably going to be wrong a lot of the time, you know what I mean? But like, if you can have a discussion with them up front about it and just be open, but it just depends on the agency too, and the dynamic that they have with their client, and then the dynamic that you have with the agency, and then you've got to relay that to the crew. So it's just like trying to find that fluidity on set where there's no tension. Look, if you want to come and hang out up by the monitor, I'm fine with that. Do you know what I mean? I just want to make sure it feels collaborative. But, within that, we've already been through all the process. I know what we need to achieve. And I'm just trying to go and get that no matter what happens, and reacting and
right.
So on.
And
I guess.
were you a copywriter or art director?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. When I was in New Zealand, Australia, we were just creatives. Okay. We were like whatever needs to be done, scrappy. That's where I started doing a lot of stuff with my creative partners over the years, just like make it ourselves. So we were writers, we were art directors. I have an art direction background, but I'm also a writer. So that helps obviously when it gets to treatments and things like that, and script punch ups. But then also knowing, you can either be a director who's heavy into the copy, but I think it all needs to work together. So I was both. Okay,
and then do you find being like former creative director at these big agencies, like when you're working with creative directors now at agencies, they respect you a little more because they're like, oh, this guy gets it and he was in the game?
Yeah, I think sometimes, but like I think I probably over-indexed on being a creative director early in my career because I just come from being a creative director and understanding they have a very a tough job to do sometimes, and like you got to like work with them as opposed to coming in and just being another creative director. But like understanding their POV, and then as a director I can come in and just say whatever I want, essentially. You know what I mean? Which is great, and just sort of understanding that was a moment too, I guess, in a few years back where I was like, you know what? No, I don't have to worry about going to another meeting with this client in 2 weeks' time.
Right. Well, and I guess like how much now are you like leaning on that kind of that background, right? Where is like most of your work direct to brand or with agencies, and like how much of like the creative are you actually coming up with versus like executing and like kind of adding those punch ups?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. Maybe when I first started, a few years back, it was all just agency boards, but like that landscape has completely changed. I would say it's definitely predominantly still agency boards, but there are a lot of now different media agencies that are production agencies. There's lots of like clients. Like I work a lot with an amazing client at Shark Ninja, and they're different, production partners and things like that, like David Beckham, for example, and Kevin Hart. So it's like there's a whole new world out there of just celebrities have their own production companies. So it's just that's another thing you got to try and figure out all that dynamic too. But it's predominantly definitely agency boards still. Do you know what I mean? Which is great.
Well, and so let's talk about that then, like making the transition to kind of working with celebrities. Yeah. How did that kind of become like one of your niches? I hate like putting directors in boxes, but like how did that become like a niche for you?
Yeah, and I think obviously I have a lot of experience on the agency side working with celebrities. Back from the days when Robin Fitzgerald and I, she's co-CD at Crispin, we were on Old Navy, so we work with a lot of celebrities. So I've always been in that environment, which made it like, because it can get intense. It can be quite, intimidating sometimes, but, just being able to be comfortable with that. And then, being in comedy, there's so much celebrity comedy work. So just being able to kind of, make celebrities funny, even if they're not actors, is part of it. But I think going back, when I was on the agency side, the important transition point that I got from agency to directing was working on a client, NBA 2K, where the co-CD on that, Hoj and I were, directing a lot of the work ourselves because we'd pitched it and we won the account, and then we had some like low budget stuff to get done, and we were just like, we'll do it, we'll jump on it. And like back in New Zealand, I've done that a lot too, just like we'll make it ourselves. Do you know what I mean? And then that was the process of building a reel, because at the end of the day, if you don't have a reel, an agency can't show their client, what you can do. So the reel is the most important thing. So I was always building a reel in the background, even when I was in the agency, and that led to some funny conversations. But like NBA 2K, we pitched it, we won it, the client was amazing. And I've been fortunate enough to have worked with a lot of amazing clients over my career. Harrods, we'll talk about later, is one of them. Incredible client. And then NBA 2K as well were amazing. And they allowed us to kind of go and direct the work. So we shot some stuff with Kevin Durant, just simple, just direct to camera. But we made it good and we made it work. And we crafted it and we kept working. And then a bigger opportunity came along, which was James Harden, Beard Guru, which is where we had this character that would come in and fix James Harden's beard. And then Anthony Davis rocked up, which was amazing. And then we also shot a kind of a big, more epic sports Nike Adidas type spot. But the client was like, yeah, you guys direct it. See what I mean? So we did. And we brought in amazing production designers and stuff like that. And that was a big spot on the reel. The James Harden Beard Guru thing. It was like, you can work with celebrities, you can make comedy, and away you go. So yeah, that was a transition point, I would say.
And what did you find was the hardest part, going completely to directing? Because, right, there's kind of I feel there's lots of paths to directing, but there's people who I think are way more writers and story driven, right? And you had kind of that, but also this more creative background and understanding the advertising world. And then there's a lot of directors who are I would call filmmakers, right? Mm-hmm. And they're more into the filmmaking aspect of it, or way more into the technical aspect. But then a lot of those, I feel like directors maybe don't understand so much the agency model. And maybe that's where there's a clash, right? But what did you have? Was there a big transition where you were okay, I've got this, but was it were there some filmmaking stuff that you didn't know, or were you kind of kind of keen to everything?
I was keen in everything. I mean, that's the easy answer. Do you know what I mean? Because to me, you could be a comedy director and just be into the copy and shoot a wide 2 shot and then single and call it a day, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of ads do that. But the camera part and the technical part has always been super important to me. So I've always been a nerd for that stuff. You know what I mean? Really dived into it and been inspired by the classic Edgar Wright when it comes to comedy and camera movement and bring dynamic kind of storytelling to always in service of the story, never allowing technique to kind of trump the emotion of the spot or anything like that. It can empower it. So yeah, and there is a lot of different commercial directors. And I think, at the end of the day, you're a commercial director. You can't come in and pretend you're shooting, Spartacus or something, which some people do. But no, it's you're a commercial director. You have to understand the dynamic. And yes, you can be opinionated, and yes, you can kind of stand up for what you think is right, as you should. I think that's what agencies and clients want. I think when the dynamic falls apart, when there's no trust between the client and the agency, and there's no trust between a director and an agency and so on, that's when it becomes problematic. And then and I also appreciate it when agencies allow the director to be involved all the way through. You know what I mean? That's a very different distinction between directing in the States and other countries, where where I started in New Zealand, we would always work all the way through pretty much with a director. But I think that's important. But then there's the realities of that with clients and changes and so on. So yeah, just being collaborative is important. I guess what my ramble is about.
No, it's good. There's a lot of good stuff in there I want to hit on. Cause I loved your answer about, kind of understanding the filmmaking and the camera movement. with comedy, but having it serve the story. And we'll get into that in the Harris spot when we break it down, because that does such an amazing job of that. And I love that. Cause I think that's like one thing I struggle a little bit with comedy, and it's weird. I've been, in the last year or two, I've been getting asked to do way more comedy, and I don't consider myself a comedy director at all, but like, I've never liked comedy because like, it is always like, here's a 2-shot and then we get the singles. And I'm like, it's just kind of boring. And half the time the jokes aren't that funny. So like just them by themselves, I'm like, isn't that great? And you don't have that much.
Sell a script, sorry, mate, but you think it's hard to sell a script. Try and getting a 30-second edit through multiple client reviews to keep a joke intact.
Dude, totally.
Or watching 30-second the cut on their phone while the kids are like being little assholes or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, that's the reality. So it's like you've got to understand that path too.
Right.
So, like, how do we fix that? I don't know.
Well, and that's exactly it, right? Because like, I think if you're going to do comedy well, if you're a brand, you have to go all in, right? Like, you can't be safe, but so much time.
Safe though. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right. Like, and everybody plays it safe, and then it kind of falls short. But that's like where I love, like, if you can, have a good joke, but then also some entertainment with cool camera stuff, or like Edgar Wright stuff, like you mentioned, I think is the way to kind of like, pull it off.
Well, premium too. Do you know what I mean? Like, comedy, I don't think comedy should look cheap unless, it's like you can't have, what's the saying? A joke is always at someone's expense. Do you know what I mean? So comedy and drama go together. So like, it's like the two masks, right?
Yeah.
Laughing and crying. And, I use the Coen brothers as well a lot of times for reference, but those guys do both so well. You know what I mean? And when it comes together, like the Big Lebowski and all that, like, it's just like, it's incredible. It's funny and it's beautiful and it's like cinematic. But there is a lot of like, there are brands that are embracing that now, which is great. You know what I mean? You see a lot of more polished cinematic comedy on TV, which is great.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So like let's go kind of like back to like working with celebrities,
Try not to. I'm gonna try and not say anything that would get me. Actually, like, NDAs don't matter, do they? They don't matter anymore, right?
No, yeah, you're good. Okay. You're
so,
good.
You want to know about writers?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, totally. Trying to remember. Candy bar. We've had candy bars.
For sure. And
I don't know, sometimes you put on these elaborate displays for celebrities and then don't even use them. Okay.
Yeah. Sour Patch Kids, that's my writer.
Yeah, totally.
Have to have Sour Patch Kids. No. My gums are bleeding by the end of shoots. So like, what's kind of like your mindset going into like working with celebrity? Because like, I feel like with some of these bigger names, and I have a story with Harrison Ford that's kind of funny. Where
and in a plane in Venice.
It was with airplanes. Yeah, no, it was with airplanes, but it was
amazing.
And and we were talking about like how we were gonna like light him and shoot him, and he wanted to be lit a certain way, and then was like, no, just come around here and get this shot, and we were just like, yes, sir. You know what I mean? Like how do you kind of manage? Because a lot of these people, right, they've been in some of the greatest comedies or movies. They've worked with amazing directors. Like, how do you not get almost overwhelmed or imposter syndrome when you're working with some of these celebrities, and they might, not a disagreement, but might have their own opinions or whatnot of how something should be shot?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I haven't had too many moments like that where celebrities come in, and it's like, I think in that moment, like with Harrison, for example, it's like, that's a tricky one, right? Like, what can you say to him? Like, Harrison, look, I know you've done all these great, Indiana Jones, Star Wars and shit, but like, this is a Bush Beans commercial. You know what I mean? So we need you to hold the can so we can see the label, please. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I don't know if it was a Bush Beans commercial, but it's like, to me, it starts there's obviously all the prep, understanding the dynamic, understanding who the celebrity is. I've had, being from New Zealand, I've had to Google a few football players and sometimes. But I think maybe that helps, but no, it's prep. like I have to go in. I remember early on in career, just like I had to know every single thing. I thought I had to know every single thing that a celebrity had done and whatever. So I remember working once with Ted Danson on an American Express campaign, and they were like, "Oh, Ted wants to speak to you." I was like, "Shit," you know what I mean? Ted Danson wants to speak to me because I'm directing Spot, whatever, and like, so like he's gonna call you. And so I went deep into prep. I was surrounded by like notes. Do you know what I mean? Cheers, like, well, like everything he'd done. And then he like gets on a call. He's like, "Hey, it's Ted." And I'm like, "Hi, Mr. Danson. Lovely to meet you." And he's like, "Listen, I've got to go for lunch." And he's so nice. Do you know what I mean? And he's like, "I've got to go. Just wanted to know a little bit about the ending, but I think I figured it out. All good. Looking forward to it. See you later. Bye." You know what I mean? Just like the sweetest man. Awesome. And then I'm just sat there like hanging up, just looking at all these notes going, "Oh, okay." You know what I mean? They don't necessarily want an in-depth conversation about it, but it's like, if you know the points that they need to hit, and if you're like organized in that way, then you can walk onto set kind of just being, super prepped, and that makes you feel at ease. And then, there's also there's a massive tension on set when a celebrity arrives, which is always fun. Do you know what I mean? Like the moment a celebrity arrives, we just invite, Team A or whatever, like what A team is like, and everyone goes quiet. And it's just like, when you're shooting comedy, that's the worst moment, I think. It's like, great, the celebrity's here, but it's like, now the energy's gone because everyone's got tense. So that's when I turn the music up. You know what I mean? And I think like music on set to me is crucial, absolutely crucial. I probably over-index on it, but like to me, it's like if you ask me like later on in the lightning round questions, like what tool is most important to you, I would say my Bluetooth speaker.
Nice, I love that.
So it's like that moment that you just want to create the right vibe for the celebrity on set, so they feel at ease, they feel comfortable. Like with the Martin thing, we'll get into that, but it's just like, if he asks me a question, I have to go, I know exactly, what's coming next. And then there'll be folks like Patrick Mahomes, for example. You think about a quarterback and how they are trained to like look at, play by play or plays and all that sort of stuff. So their brains are very different from, say, like Martin Short's. They'll probably, like, Patrick knew more about the schedule than I did. Do you know what I mean? I think he'd glance through it a couple of times and he'd be like, "No, we're going to go there and do that," stuff like that, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes back like, it seems, it's just the vibe. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to be prepared, create a great vibe on set, and make it fun.
I think we'll definitely get in this when we talk about Martin Short, but how much are like these actors or celebrities, I should say, like bringing ideas to the table, and like how do you kind of like balance like directing the performance you envision versus like giving the celebrity room to like bring their own energy or spin to it?
Yeah. I guess judo, not karate. It's like, I use that quote so often, but it's like, I can't just be like, "No, why would you do that?" I've had like certain celebrities, don't necessarily, aren't actors. Like I work a lot with athletes, work a lot with actors, and athletes have an idea of how they should play a character sometimes, and a lot of times that's a Will Ferrell impersonation. So they'll be like, you'll be doing like Anchorman or something. Do you know what I mean? Just because I read it. So you have to kind of like take, just guide them or whatever. Maybe try one down. I think, I always tell them about the cut. Like, look, in the cut, like I'm focused on the cut. I'm here to capture what I need to make a great edit, right? And, as an editor, you appreciate that. Like, it's like, it's so in the edit, I might need a different energy. I might need you to be down or like to be a little bit more subtle here, because otherwise, if we're just all high energy or whatever, or you're doing it one way, then the edit's just going to be flat. So I kind of like talk to them about that process a bit, as a little bit of like, there's this magic that we need to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they go, "Oh, okay," and then you just have to build a trust with them, and you have to do that quickly. You know what I mean? So
you kind of mentioned this, but like when you're working with like celebrity talent versus normal talent, like, are you preparing for the job any differently?
No. It's all about like, it's just you're whether you're a celebrity or, I mean, there'll be different processes of course, do you know what I mean, and different things to deal with. But in terms of what's in the frame, whether you're a celebrity or an actor, it's like what comes next, what's before that, how does it flow, what's, you know, it's someone in the frame, do you know what I mean? So I don't prepare differently for what I want creatively, do you know?
And then have you ever been like kind of surprised by a direction like a celebrity took during a shoot that ended up like improving the final product?
Yeah, I mean, I guess one of the there's this amazing like I worked with Margot Robbie once, and there was like just like her part was quite, you know, small, and there was just a few lines on the script, and I was just like, this just got Margot Robbie, like this is gonna be. It was cool. There was like a scene where she had to. There's one scene where she had to throw a stuntman for a table, and another scene where she had to like say a line at a bar or whatever. And I was like, how's she gonna make that good? Hey, the stuntman, fine, great, easy, awesome. It was just like a very simple line or whatever. And then it was just like, yeah, there's a reason why she's my Robin and won all these Oscars or whatever. But it was amazing. So watching that moment, that was really cool to understand. Like, great talent can just make something good amazing. Do you know what I mean? And then
And you know, maybe like, what about like schedule with celebrities? Because like when I've worked with, you know, celebrities and more athletes than I guess like true celebs, but the schedule is always interesting because I've had it where like sometimes it's like, oh, we get them for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Right. And we're like, oh, we got to make a 30 or like whatnot. And it's just like crazy. So like when you're talking about like Margot Robbie and like throwing people, like there's stunts and whatnot. When you're working with them, is the schedule really tight, or are you getting them pretty much for like 8 hours?
No, the schedules are always tight. And like scheduling, I guess that's an important, like massive thing to talk about. Like the schedule is everything, right? That's your blueprint for the day. How are you going to achieve something without a tight schedule? It's impossible. So yeah, celebrities will give you anywhere from an 8-hour, 10-hour day. So you know all these parameters, then you have to kind of figure it out together with your assistant director. And so, for example, you might have an 8-hour celebrity, which might include hair and makeup, lunch. So you really only get them for like, you know, maybe 6 hours on set, or you only go for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, like 5 hours. And then they need to go and do an interview with like, you know, some PR stuff, and then go and do the socials. So scheduling is like crucial. And I know that's not the most like, you know, the obvious thing to say, but, you know, with the Martin stuff, for example, we talk about it. We had 3 days with him and he was locked in. That was 2 big spots. And so he was locked in on that. But other times it's manic. Do you know what I mean? And then you kind of, you cut, celebrity walks off, and then you're just like, you know what I mean? What just happened?
And well, like, so do you have like kind of like backup plans? So say you're doing like a complicated shot, like a technical shot, and it's just not working, but you know, like I've got this person for a couple hours and we got another setup or something like that. Are you just being like, okay, fuck it, let's go to plan B, a safer option, or are you just like
backup options? I mean, we talk about the ending of the classic character spot with all the different Martin characters, and originally I was going to shoot that on motion control, but we got to the tech and realized that like it's just not going to work with the schedule. It was the schedule that like, and we're like, we have to shoot this as a lock off, yeah, because we can't. We have to leave. We basically shot that end shot on 2 separate days. So we left, you know, we leave in a camera lock off because we have to get in all the different characters. So to do Moko, that would have been 2 days of Moko versus 1 day, which was just like, didn't work. So schedule, yeah, you have to know. And then you have to hope that they show up on time. Then you have to adjust. There's been some interesting shoots. I don't know how much I can say. I've done a shoot once in, I'll do it without saying names, but like Madison Square Garden, and I think, you know, it was supposed to be an 8-hour shoot, and it went down to 2 hours. And so that was ripping up the storyboard, rechanging things. But we also got 6 hours to play, you know, basketball at Madison Square. Madison. It was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, just learning to roll with the punches, learning to like adapt, be flexible, don't get upset with like if things have to change, try and hold on to the idea. It's like that's the process, you know.
Yeah. I had something like that where working with an athlete and they were late by a couple hours because they had left over like $1 million of jewelry in the airplane. So they had to go back to the airport, and then we were shooting like,
you know.
yeah, exactly. And then we were shooting this scene, and then he just like disappears, and the agent just comes in and is like, yeah, he's done. And we were like, okay.
I learned a lot from a good AD once. We used to call him the agent and client whisperer. So like, you know, as an AD, what does he care about? You know, he wants to keep the set moving, but he would just go and walk and stand, you know, next to an agent or next to a celebrity or next to a video village, and then in a loud voice just announce like what we need to do, or like, you know, we only got 5 minutes, you know, just really like setting the time that like everyone had to, you know, get their shit together.
Has working with kind of like celebrity talent, has that changed the way you work with like non-celebrity talent at all?
Great question. I'm not sure. I think probably a little, I don't know. I don't think so. No. Because I mean, you're always trying to create a joke. I just like, but I think you can get more, and then some celebrities like do spots where they're becoming a character, like, you know, amount of stuff, or they're just being themselves. What I love about working with non-celebrities is building characters. You know what I mean? And then you can really get in and craft things. Like you get into the wardrobe, and like, you know, I mean, lucky enough to work with some great collaborators like Jason Alper, for example, who I work with on costume and wardrobe a lot. Jason is famous, as I always say in treatments, as being the inventor of the mankini. So he's you know, he's pretty amazing. Like he's worked with Sacha Baron Cohen since the early days, so Ali G or Bruno, and then in Xfinity commercials, you know what I mean? Which is great. But it's like, you know, I learned so much from him, for example, about like how to create characters. And it's like there's some simple stuff like, you know, people don't wear the right size clothing. Like, you know, some people do, like, but then a lot of people maybe don't, the shirt doesn't fit them quite right, or the jacket's a little too baggy. And it's just like those little nuances.
Yeah.
When you get into comedy, create character, as opposed to those very stiff, like I did a lot of Old Navy ads on the creative side, and everything was very stiff, right? You know what I mean? Like, I don't mean stiff, I just mean it's like you think about commercials and you got, you know, khaki pants, polo shirt, no pattern, because the client thought pattern would be busy on camera. Do you know what I mean? Which is, I want to make it very clear right now that pattern is never busy. And it always looks great. But it's just like, I can't remember what I'm saying now as I'm rambling again, but like, yeah, working, building characters with non-celebrities is so much fun.
Yeah. No, I love that little nuance with the like clothes not fitting right. And the pattern thing is funny. It just came up on my shoot last week. And it's like, people think it's like the like early video, and it's like, oh, that's going to mosaic. I'm like, no.
Yeah, so most like clients are very interested in like worried about mosaicing, which is fine. Don't worry, with this world-class DP. You know what I mean? They'll let us know. They'll let us know. It's, I don't know, it's fun. It's fun. Like all those dynamics, they come up all the time. So you just have to kind of, you get into the ability to, you know, deal with them and respond with them.
Right. Well, this is the last question, and then we'll share the spots here and kind of break those down. But like what do you think is like maybe like the biggest misconception when like working with famous talent?
That they're all assholes.
Yeah.
They're not. You know what I mean? Most of the time, I've had very, very few experiences that are problematic. Yes, there have been problems. And there are celebrities who are notoriously bad. And, you know, I've heard so many horror stories from friends who are directors and things like that as well. There are people who just don't give a shit about the project, or there's some other stuff going on in their life or whatever, and it can be a bad experience. But fortunately, I would say 95% of my experiences have been amazing. And, you know, from working with like athletes who are like, you know, they're media trained, who are like you know, there are some athletes who are very much managed. So you only got 30 minutes, bang, bang, bang. And then, you know, like they're highly managed because they're like, you remember, they're also assets, right? So, you know, they come with security. Like if you're working with Messi, for example, like there's protocols and things like that. His left leg is insured for like $900 million. So don't go up and, you know, start trying to tackle him, like, you know what I mean, on set. But it's like, yeah.
Very cool. All right, well, let's get to these spots, and I think this will even open up more conversation about working with celebs.
The nicest. Sorry, mate. Martin Short.
Yeah.
Martin Short is the nicest person in show business. Like,
That's awesome.
That guy is incredible. This experience was, I'll never forget this experience. I'm going to his home and hanging out with him, just hanging out. Like, he's incredible. So
That's awesome.
yeah, beautiful man.
All right, cool. Well, let's watch this spot down, and then we can talk about it here.
As the brand spanking new mayor of Funner, California, I want to be more than just a gorgeous spokesmodel with an attitude. Filter! Better. It's my goal to make Harrah's Resort SoCal even funner. The live entertainment, funner. Bossa Nova, ouch. The fabulous dining options, funner.
And when I say mustard, I don't mean Dijon.
I'm an American. I'm talking yellow mustard and lots of it. The gaming funner. Oh, spin, wheel, spin. Red or black, either one would be pretty decent, I must say.
Come on, 11! Mayor Marty's on his way!
11. Harrah's Resort, Southern California. Fun made funner.
Talk about, like, okay, so how did this spot come about? Like, let's talk about, like, from the very beginning. Was this through rep and agency, or was this kind of more direct to brand?
This is originally from agency, and rep and so on. And I think, you know, we've been working with Harrah's through two different agencies over the years. So this was the third mayor that I shot. So the first one was Rob Riggle, and then the second mayor was Jane Lynch, and then Martin Short became the mayor of Funner, California, which is this area down in between, near San Diego, south of LA.
Okay.
So we're when we shoot this, we're in the casino. Do you know what I mean? For like a week, and first of all, it's awesome. It's the best experience. There's nothing more fun than, like, you know, finishing for the day and then going down later to the bar or the, you know, maybe the crabs table, and then just like hanging out with like the crew and stuff, just hanging around. So that's so much fun. This is such a fun shoot, and like the client's amazing. So the Harrah's client, first of all, like incredible people, and they kind of like let you just do your thing with the celebrity. You know, the scripts there were prepped, and it's just fun. It's fun for them. It's fun for everyone. Yeah, they're a great client.
That's
so we've
awesome.
been working with them for a while. So this was the third campaign we did.
Very cool. Like, how much of your rate did you blow on gambling?
Not very much. No.
Well, cool. So then, with the creative, was this something like that was pretty well scripted and like the beats were planned out, or did you kind of like add a lot of your own kind of ideas and punch ups to this?
Yeah, no, there's a combination there. There's obviously the script. You know, the script comes in and it's amazing. It's like Martin Short, wow, great. Then we want to do all of his characters. Like we want to. It's, you know, essentially this is a tour of the property of the resort. You know, led by Martin Short, with all the different tones and stuff that you can bring to each of the characters. So there was that on paper. What I brought to it was, you know, the transitional nature of it. So it's not just cut to him there. It's like, how do we make this a fun experience as we move through all these the resort, and go from like one character to another. And that, you know, that started out with like, you know, the intention was this. I wanted Moko. We were going to do motion control. I was going to have him, you know, walk through the casino in a motion control shot, get to the end of the table where all of the other characters were waiting for him. This is the mayor. Martin walks, and gets to the table. There he is. And so it would have been a lot more dynamic, but like just the nature of the day and the scheduling was impossible. So we ended up doing a lock-off here at the end. When this lock-off is shot over 2 days. So, everything is mapped out, right? And we're doing overlays. So I'm working with a great VTR person. So we've got all our overlays. I know what action I want the character to do. I don't want it just them to be static. I want them to kind of be walking in, like, and have their own moments. So thinking about the overlap and all that sort of stuff was fun. And then within that, there's a non-Martin character, the croupier. So we had to kind of like connect that all with the action previous. Obviously, he saves Mayor Martin's life. Mayor Martin saves his life. He's about to choke. So we had to get his action in right. He's just obviously had the Heimlich maneuver, and all that sort of stuff. And then there's the background plate. So, to me, this is all about like working with great VFX people. So I think this was method, it's a couple of years back now, but it's like, great Chris, the VFX soup, he was awesome too. So that whole team, just figuring that stuff out was fun.
And let's go back to schedule with this one too, because like how did the schedule work with all these costume changes and hair, like obviously tons of hair and makeup with Jiminy Glick? Like, what was that like?
So we have to Jiminy, and the reason why, I think it was Jiminy was the reason why we couldn't do this on Moko, because we had to, he needs 2 hours to, or whatever it was, do you know what I mean, to get into the costume. And remind me to talk about the fitting, which is hilarious. But like he takes so we have to do that in the morning. We have to shoot the Jiminy stuff in the morning. So I have to go and I have to shoot him at the end, at the table here, the craps table, whatever it is. Then I have to shoot him at the restaurant. There he is there. So we got to shoot all the Jiminy stuff out, in a block. And so that's the first thing we do. So the first shot of, like, I think it was day 2 was Jiminy Glick and at the craps table. And I remember, like, the day before I'd shot, Martin as the mayor and maybe one other character, I can't remember, but like, so I was just used to working with Martin, for example. And, day 2 in the morning, Martin rocks up as Jiminy Glick. So he comes straight out of like makeup and he's Jiminy. And he immediately comes up to me. I'm standing by the craps table there and is like, just speaks to me as Martin. And I'm like, sorry, Martin, can you stop for a second? I need to process this. And he flipped into Jiminy like instantly. And he was holding the, I think 2 days later, I was still finding Krispy Kreme icing in my sweater. But like he just immediately switched into Jiminy, grabbed me and like threw me up against the craps table and got in my face and did Jiminy. It was like, I don't think that moment on set will ever be beat.
That's amazing.
It was awesome. So yeah, he's the best. He's the best.
Yeah, and like when do you bring Martin into this? Like, are you doing pre-pro with him? Okay, yeah.
So the Martin process, like obviously he was involved, he had his team involved, and it was great, amazing process. Working with his some of his writers and stuff like that. That process was really great because they're just like pros. You know what I mean? I'm like such great people. And so that process started early because we had to write a song for the other spot. We had to, work with him on the script. He wanted to be in his, voice, obviously, which is great. And then we had to write a song. We had to pre-record a song. So I actually had the good fortune of like being able to go and meet Martin early on. Yeah, we did a Zoom call, went over stuff, intro, and then we had a fitting. And I got to go to his house, meet him as he was being fit for like the suit and different characters, which was like an incredible experience. Like just talk about, he was so welcoming. I rocked up to his house and, said hi, I think I bought him a bottle of wine. So like, I'm going to your house. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, bring something. And it was just like, it was awesome. I got to hang out with him in his office as he was being fit for these different characters. And then I'm surrounded by all this memorabilia that he has and all these, photographs of him and Steve Martin and just like his movies, like, Three Amigos, all this stuff. It's just like incredible. Like, I'm just like, and just enjoying it. Do you know what I mean? And letting the costume designer do his thing. And I don't know, just like, And that was creating a relationship, you know what I mean? We're about to spend 3 days together, as well as multiple days together in recording, getting the song done. Like that was just about, you know, building that trust. And I think it was an incredible experience. I got to witness him, you know, half dressed as Jiminy Glick chatting with his handyman, which was hilarious. But yeah, I'm sure he was an incredible turn.
And this is like kind of a little bit off topic here, but like, is he Martin Short like all the time, or is he like much different when he's at home and kind of like in the comforts of his own house? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard not to Martin Short to be Martin Short.
Yeah.
I think, you know what I mean? It's like, even just Martin Short answering the door is going to be amazing. Do you know what I mean? Like, even just him opening the door and saying hello, you know, it's just like, okay, God, there's a reason why you're Martin Short.
Right.
But obviously you can dial it up and dial it down. It's
right.
It's hilarious.
And
we'll dial it up a lot.
And then, like, were there any moments in here that like he kind of brought to the table, right? Where you were like, oh, like, okay, here's the next shot. And then he was like, well, what if I did this? And then you're like, yeah, let's roll with it. And then you shoot and you're like, oh God, that's fucking gold.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of that happened in the pre-record of the song, for example. Like he would like, you know, the ending of the other spot, for example, where he goes a high pitch, or the line at the beginning of that song where he says, how did everyone get in my room? It's like all those are things that he wanted to do. Do you know what I mean? And stuff like that. So there was a lot of that. And there was a lot of like, you know, just crafting the script up front, really, you know, obviously had to get the song dialed in because of the timing. And then just on the day, you know what I mean? He sits down at this table and it's Jiminy Glick. And so like, you know, we're adapting the, you know, we know what we have to say and what we're trying to get across. And I've got the moves that I want. And yeah, he just went for it. Do you know what I mean? It's just, and that's the fun part. Once you've set everything up and then you just start rolling, and then he just starts saying a bunch of random stuff. It's the best.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Let's watch the next box. It's so good, and there's a lot to discuss here.
And now, please welcome your mayor of Funner, Martin Short. Hey, how did everyone get into my room? Mayor Marty's gonna make your fun times funner. There's no funner place to be. Card flips, that's good dealing. Your chips reach the ceiling. Big win, funner in with me. Throw out every care and let down your hair. Come on and float your boat in funner with flair. Dinner, a delish stunner. Hot fudge, a la funner, where fun for one is twice the fun for two. It's Mayor Marty's deep desire as funner's fun time amplifier to make each highlight higher, higher, higher.
Sweet.
So hilarious.
So were these all like 100% shot on location?
Yep. Everything.
Okay.
So I know I could close my eyes and walk through Harris locale. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I told the client that on this one. So, you know, I was able to like, you know, block it, and then we go there and, you know, figure it all out there. But it's all shot on location. So you're there for like, you know, we're there for a week, and I've gone there multiple times, tech, you know, scouts and all that sort of stuff. But we're there for a week, you know, getting all the crew loaded in, and then we're there. And it's dealing with like, you know, it's still a live resort and live casino. So you're dealing with all that too. So, you know, there'll be, you know, bogeys, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, how did you deal with the bogeys and like with Martin Short and people just being
angles and things? Yeah. You know, that's like, it's super well managed by the production and also the client. Like it's dialed in. But I want to say, like, on these two campaigns, there's obviously a lot of great crew. You know what I mean? Like the DP Ben Saracen on this was amazing. Dan Butts, the production designer, and then, you know, even going to edit, like Aaron Langley was great. It's like, and then the music on this, like, I brought in a really close friend of mine, Jeremy, at Motive, and his wife Samantha, and they were a huge part of this, right? Because we were working with Martin and Martin's writer Matt to kind of like figure out the lyrics, and then because it's a song, and so like I've got to do a 60 and a 30 and a 15, so like I have to figure out how many bars of music go into each length, what are those bars, where's the chorus, and then syncing all that up with action, and so on. So, you know, Jeremy is incredible composer, does a lot of film, television scores, you know, commercials, you know, going back years. So like that process was like, you know, it was great, super collaborative. And, you know, we had to kind of figure out what this track was. And, you know, Martin had very strong thoughts on the style of music and all that sort of stuff. So it's a remake of Yes Sir, That's My Baby. And, you know, then we took that and just worked with it and worked with publishing and built this. So that process was super collaborative. Went and recorded with Martin, tweaked the tonal stuff there, and then did a re-record with him after the spot was shot, just to kind of dial in details. But yeah, I do want to shout out Jeremy and Samantha on that, because it was huge. That's actually Jeremy's voice as the announcer at the beginning.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And so that's Samantha's, she's the high-pitched Martin at the end. So
Oh, really?
Finding great people to collaborate with. Like I hate the layers, you know, coming from agency side, the layers of approval, of just like working with like through, like if you want to do music, for example, and you're working with just demos and different layers, and then you talk to a producer talks to a producer, the producer talks to, you know, like the creative director talks to different freelancers. Though it's like, it's the worst. Like I want to be able to text someone with an idea and go like, why don't we try this? And I'm talking directly to the person who can do that. Yes, we can be on a thread, you know what I mean, or whatever, but to me, that's such an important part. Like the more, and that goes back to what we're talking about on set, right? The barrier and the fluidity and like organize, like same thing in pre-production and post-production. Like the less you can, you know, the more you can kind of like just work directly with great collaborators is crucial to me.
Yeah. How much prep did you do on this? Like, do you know like about how many days? Because I feel like the prep on this job was probably enormous. And like, how do you balance that then with like, were you in other jobs? Were you in post on other jobs? Were you bidding on other jobs? Or were you just like dialed in on just this one job?
I think there's always an overlap.
Yeah.
Like, but a job like this was very heavily focused on. I would say, if anything, you may be just checking out, you know, if you're lucky enough to have done a few jobs back to back, you've got maybe some edit stuff or post stuff to tidy up as you move into another one. Or you're in treatments as well at the same time. Like I'll be on, you know, it's the nature of what you have to do to keep moving. So I think, but this one was this was maybe from getting the script to shoot, maybe a month, I would say. Figuring it all out, putting the plan in place, getting a record done so that, you know, I've got a click track for on set and all that sort of stuff. So there was a lot of prep. I mean, I blocked out every single shot in this one, you know, drew it all out. And like another most important collaborator, well, not the most important, but like super important, is my storyboard artist. I've been working with the same storyboard artist for, I don't know, 12 years or something. And we have like just that finding a good storyboard artist is the most crucial thing to do.
Right. And where, like, what was the order? Because I feel like the music would dictate so much of like your beats on set and like almost your shots and blocking. So did you like, was the music like the first thing you did and then you kind of plan stuff around that? Or did you kind of already like have all the shots and then the music just came in?
There was the initial script had like, you know, the lyrics essentially kind of, and also what they wanted to, because we're advertising, right? So
right.
We're like the spa, but we want to make it fun. So there's a spa scene and this is the sort of lyrics. Then it's like figuring out like where the transition is. Do I transition like halfway through stanza, or do I, you know, all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. Like split it. So it's a lot of figuring out. Like I did a crap-o-matic, as I say. Like I hate really like detailed previs, unless you're doing a big super VFX thing. But like I prefer just a more of a timing
right
crap-o-matic thing that I work on. So I had this sort of like cut to the song, and I had the 30 version done. So I knew exactly. I knew like I need intro X seconds. This shot of him where he grabs a scarf that needs to be 2 point whatever. So I have all that detail going in, and then I'm just like figuring it out. And then if something falls apart, adapting. But a lot of this is really timed, and you're moving quickly. It's like, and also like I'll shoot this scene, and I got to go and shoot a scene for classic characters. So nothing is ever super linear. So you have to keep that cut in your head all the way through.
Yeah, I was wondering about that, like how your schedule is set up, because it seems like that where you're like both spots, right? Like you might be shooting, okay, we're on the floor of the casino, and we're going to be shooting one scene from one script, and then go right to the next. So you're kind of having to think about two different spots. Do you have any like tips or tricks for that, or is it just kind of like you're just so dialed with all the previs that you've done that it's not that hard to kind of like switch the thought?
I mean, yeah, from my point of view, it's like I'm dialed in. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like I've listened to I used to drive my kids crazy. Like I had the 60 version of the song, and I would play it in the car as I was driving into school. That's what we're listening to for the next 2 weeks. And so I'd probably listen to that track, 250, no joke, times before I even got to set, and then watch the anime. So like it's locked into your brain. Do you know what I mean? No, I'm just like, it's in there. Right. So I know where I am. I know where I am in the cut almost all the time.
Right.
So like I know that, and that only comes from experience and like just doing it over and over again. Like eye lines used to freak me out. Mm-hmm. Then now they don't. You know what I mean? Because I can just, you start to be able to think in that sort of spatial way a lot easier the more you do it, obviously. So
right. And there's like a kind of like a lot of choreography in this spot, with the camera movement and kind of like what Martin's doing and Martin singing. How did you guys go about like kind of like the choreography of the spot,
So I'd planned out all the moves. If we go to the front, like the front section, he obviously comes in. That's easy. It's just like amazing shot there, great lighting, bend. Figure out the cut point. So I've got a way to get into the song, and then I got to get him out of frame, down. That's time with a techno crane move. You know what I mean? So that was grab a scarf, grab a guy by the neck, pull him out. We've got 5 takes to do it. And then link that to that. And it's like, there's so much. There's so many takes sometimes where it's just like, oh shit, have I made this too complicated?
Yeah.
But no, you just like, figure it out.
Right.
And that moment, like there are things I would love to have done differently. And that's another thing. You got to like, okay, this is going to work. This is like, it's not exactly how I imagined it in my brain going into it. I think originally I wanted to get the camera on that techno move right up to the guy's face as he was pulled, so that I could really see that. But then fine, keep it as slightly wider and it works still. Do you know what I mean? Maybe it's better. So it's just embracing the chaos and the moment, but having a blueprint.
Yeah. Well, that's like one thing I loved about this spot was like, there's just so many nice like little nuances that happen that just add either like comedic beats or how you get from one scene to the next. Like this is simple, but like I just love this kind of like mic grab here.
Yeah. That's art to me. I love all those little shots sometimes, and like they're sometimes the first things to go in cuts. So like,
yeah.
But like it's so important to have like fun shots like that.
Totally. Or like I love just like this little flare hit here.
Yeah.
And
that
like
helps. So that's flaring to the next shot. That was something we added in post so that it helps you transition. The light helps you transition to the lobby.
Yeah. And then like this too, like I love like just the choice, right, of having him kind of like he could be walking in, right? But like having him ride in like on the bell cart.
This is one of the 3 amigos. Do you know what I mean? We're having one of the 3 amigos just walk through shot. Like we're going to put him on a cart and have him dragging, choking a guy with a scarf as he walks through front. I'd be quite but of course, let's do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's Martin Short. We're not going to.
But that's something that's not scripted, right? Like that's like you're just kind of bringing that to the table.
No. Like I had that idea for a transition, and I was like, no, I want him to take someone with him forcefully.
That's so good.
And then
Or like,
this dude had to shave his head for the shoot, by the way.
oh really?
So yeah, again,
That's awesome.
Thank you for being. I mean, let's be honest. A lot of people had the best time ever on this job.
Oh, I'm sure.
There's a guy in the guy in the Lilo.
Yeah.
Like floaty, I think you call him. Yeah. The guy in the floaty. Like, what a gig. You know what I mean? Like, I think he told me this afterwards. Just like, thank you. I mean, I got to like lie on a floaty, watch Martin Short sing, and then just go and dance with him on stage. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like, yeah, everyone had, it was super fun.
But that's like, that too. Like, I love, like, this brings us to the next scene, right? Like, it whips, like, you see the hair go across the screen.
The wig throw. First of all, like, I was going to say it to last, but like, you know, one of the most important person in my career has been EP at Gravy, Brent Stolen. And Brent and I have been doing this together since day one. And this moment is actually hilarious to kind of like talk about Brent, because we've had like, you know, we've been working together since. He's instrumental in me getting out of agency world into directing. You know what I mean? That process wouldn't have happened without him. And then this moment, right? Like, talk about schedule, like shit. Like, I didn't actually shoot this shot. This is shot by Brent.
Oh, really?
This is Brent. This shot is Brent. I'm back with Martin, you know, doing something in the ballroom, and like, we've got to grab the shot. We're losing light, so we split cameras, right? We were leapfrogging cameras a lot. We had two cameras, two units, but then we might have had a third body. I can't remember, but like, we were leapfrogging like shit. Like, we need to break 2 camera setup. We need to send 1 camera to the pool. So that's the sort of fluidity and like just thinking on the spot that you have to do. So, all right, I need to get the shot. Sun's about to go down. You can see the shadow of the palm. Like, that's pretty flat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we go out. Brent goes out, and Brent's going to take this shot, which is awesome, right? And then he's like, but I need to do a wig transition. So Martin throws the wig. We'd already shot that shot in the previous shot. And I wanted the toupee. Yeah, the dude's toupee wig. Takes it, throws it. So screen direction. Look how perfect that is.
Yeah.
Like, so we had to like I had to like draw it, take a screenshot, got the VTAC, give me a screenshot of that frame, and then like, this is the arrow. This is where I want whoever is off camera throwing that toupee. This is the angle we want. So there's all these text exchanges between Brett and I, just going like, is this the right direction? Like, this, it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, it worked out perfectly. And yeah, look at that shot. I mean,
I love it. It's so good.
The other thing as well, you've always also got to adapt. I wanted him in what we call budgie smugglers in New Zealand. What do you call them here? Speedos?
Yeah.
But
Banana hammock.
We made a compromise with 70s style shorts.
Yeah.
And a peacock floaty.
Yeah, it's great. But then I love here too, like, right? Like, hit the wig, the toupee goes, which brings this guy's eye line.
Yeah.
Then he notices Martin Short, right? And then he's like kind of like finishing that wave over here, which is great. But it's just like, there's so much just fun. This is funner, right? He's there funner. Like, there's so many fun moments, like him gagging on this, or this, right? Like, where did this choice come in? Like, I love that, like that he's got the ice cream on his face. You know, it's so much fun.
I'll send it to you and you can use it. But like, so originally, I wanted Martin as a shrimp cocktail. And I drew, I'll send you it, you can put it up on the video, but I drew this drawing of Martin as a shrimp.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, you think like, you know, the classic martini glass.
Yeah.
Shrimp cocktail. And the martini glass, we think about that in terms of like musicals, you know, like Did One Tease and all those moments. Like, so I was like, I wanted Martin as a shrimp, but he had a shrimp tail coming down. He was just like elegantly laid in the to the martini. But unfortunately, you know, Martin didn't want to be a shrimp, and I think that's his choice. But no, we had some really funny conversations about it. But like, we went with this, which was fun because this actually would have been too complex, and it was, I think, making a shrimp tail was cost prohibitive. So, you know, put him in here, and then constructing this whole thing is constructed with about, I think there's 4 shots in it. 4 or 5 shots in it. There's the background plate, which Chris went and shot, of the red. So we wanted the red cherry, red dress, all that sort of stuff. Then there's the plate of the plate and the bowl and half of the ice cream. So that's obviously a shot down. We had to get the angles right, and we had and we also built like a giant top of Dan had built like a giant sundae, like a fake sundae. Life's like to the scale, right? So there's the top part, the vanilla, and then some of the other sections, and the cherry. And I'll send you a lot of like video and photos, right? You can sort of see the breakdown here, but there's some fun stuff. But like the cherry is practical, and so there's that section where he has to interact with, and then there's the plate of Martin. There's the plate with that life-size sundae, and then the small sundae, and then we have to time it all out with. And then I think there's some whipped cream on the back there, so he can kind of go and put the cherry on, and then perfectly line up his face with the whipped cream. So yeah, quite complex, but like, talk about us, good sport. Martin is the best.
Yeah. And so like, where was kind of like his plate shot in the day? Like, did you just like bring in green from another scene and put it up behind him?
No, we're jumping set to set. The set is a pre-build, so we've built every set. We've got the craps table set, green screen. We know what plates we need. We know where we're moving. So Goldie, the AD, he's the conductor. Like, he's moving us from here to there. So this was shot immediately after one of the Martin Short craps table scene, where he does the Heimlich. We shot that in the ballroom of the resort. We had a craps table set because I couldn't shoot the craps out on the actual casino floor because I had to shoot over 2 days with a lock off, and then they needed to like use the craps table. So we had another craps table set, and then another set for this against green with the sundae, and then we had spa set. So we were just using the ballroom like a stage and going from set to set when we could.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This took a lot of timing. Sorry.
This one right here.
Yeah, just to get that right, to get the dudes look over, 2 shot, 3 shot. This was a tough one, to be honest, because which is
funny because like this looks like maybe one of the more straightforward shots out of everything else you have.
Yeah.
But that's always how it is. I feel like it's always like sometimes the simpler shots. There's shots like you're not thinking about are going to be hard, are always the hard ones.
Yeah, and it's totally. It's the nature of also arcing up like that on a techno crane.
Mm-hmm. And I love this too, right? Like when this light brings us through that light.
When he sings that voice there, the tight shot,
right here.
Martin, that's Samantha at Motive. So it's like talking about working with great partners. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what can you do to make this great? Like that. I love that scrappy. It doesn't matter how big a production is. You've got to maintain a scrappier attitude. Like the moment, in my opinion, like. I love when I was starting advertising in New Zealand, Australia, that we'd grab equipment and help like lug it up mountains or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It was just like that average filmmaking. And that's how I learned so much stuff, like just hanging out with DPs, on commercials where I was maybe just a creative on, so learning. Right.
Well, I think that's great too, right? Because probably most people listening to the show aren't working on jobs like this, or they think that this is huge budget and you have like every tool to your to be able to use, but it's not always the case. And it's, that kind of being nimble and flexible and scrappiness, never goes away, no matter what level you get to, which is awesome.
Yeah. Even having a techno, but a techno was great because it allowed us to move around shots. So it helped schedule wise for certain things, but you can't just say when you have a techno, it comes with a whole bunch of people. Do you know what I mean? Operate and so there's it's everything has to fit within a budget and work no matter what. So, and then, decisions have to be made to pull back and figure it out. But that's when, those are fun meetings.
Yeah. When you were talking about earlier, when you were talking about your EP grabbing, this shot in the floaty, and you're talking about leapfrogging and different things like that. Are you how much are you thinking about that when you're planning something? Is that something that you're like, okay, to do this, this is how we have to do it? Or is that something that the AD is coming up more for you?
A combination of both. It's like something that happens in the spur of the moment, like the two-pay shot thing we're talking about, and then sometimes we've planned that. Like the AD has gone and said like, no, we can't do this, but we can split here, we can go and do that, or we can get ahead of a shot and a setup. Also having a pre-light for this shoot was important, that we weren't just trying to figure out lighting. So we have a stand-in, we've lit every set pretty much. And then, but also, within that, you have to be ready to change on a dime sometimes.
What is like maybe another thing about this shoot that people maybe wouldn't realize, right? Like you just kind of mentioned, like this little arcing spa shot was super challenging to get the timing right. Was there anything else like that like was kind of like a challenge or a surprise or something where you kind of had to like make a pivot on set that maybe people wouldn't realize just by watching this?
Yeah, I'm trying to think on this one. To go to the beginning and just quickly, maybe we can bring up the other ones as well. But like, I mean, timing the scarf grab was tough. Like that was a tough one. And then you got just a crowd of people, extras just looking at you like, what do you have to do? And that was tricky because that what are they called? Luggage cart, bell cart, whatever.
Yeah, bell hop cart.
That's on a track.
Okay.
So he's being pulled by someone else, and then that we have to keep, and a lot of times we would lose the slack of the scarf. Like I needed that scarf to be tight, right, because it was being dragged.
Yeah.
So I asked the gentleman at the back there to like, just like, you can't be keeping up with him, you've got to be dragged. You know what I mean?
Got to be literally getting choked. Yeah.
Yeah, I need you to like go method on this, mate. So like he was great. And then so those complexities. But then if you let's go to the other spot, maybe again, just from the beginning. Oh yeah, this is a good one. So that timing there, that was one of those moments where I was like, what am I trying to do? That's all done in camera. Not obviously the light to the light, but I wanted to use her as a transition to a spotlight, and then it happened right as you finished the line. And then you could have done that as like a plate if you had a repeatable camera, like a Moco or whatever, but a repeatable slider, but. No, we had to do it in one. So we had to time up her entrance. So I think, but Martin was a good sport and all that sort of stuff. Like he kind of like, taken through the storyboards and he understood the vision of how we wanted to kind of make this thing flow and feel epic and cinematic. And so he was, he was great. Like,
yeah. Yeah. Cause that's what I was going to ask is like, say like you're on take 10 of this. Is it something where like, celebrities I feel like might be like, okay.
That's when I'll turn around and there'll be a line producer staying over my shoulders.
Yeah, right.
You need to move on. No, we need to get this shot. We got it. But it took a little bit of figuring out. And like you got to allow for some spontaneity and flexibility in filmmaking. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, we've been talking a lot about the rigidity of like the process or whatever, but there still needs to be some chaos and some like spontaneity and then embracing those little magical moments that happen, So,
yeah,
or
absolutely.
Watching Martin do something completely different, going like, shit, we need to adapt to that.
Right, for sure.
This is a split between a body double who did the splits there.
Yeah.
It's not actually Martin. Just what it is. Maybe I get in trouble saying that, but Martin wants it to be known that he did the splits. No. Figure out that timing was great.
Yeah.
That's just going back to that, and you won't hear it, but in sound design, there's a squishing of a grape.
Really?
Just as his lands in the splits.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was so dumb.
Yeah, it's super fun. But that's what it's like, again, it's like, that's when I was kind of like just watching these spots over and over. Like, there's just so much awesome little details that I feel like you don't notice maybe the first time, But then after a few times, I was like, oh, this is so cool. I love that.
Yeah, that was this transition. Yeah, like figuring out that, like being able to see the cork, and then like over to him, like I wanted that move back. Showing off the restaurant there as well. You know what I mean? That's why it's not just a locked off shot. Like I want make it feel dynamic and show off Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, because that's something that can't be forgotten too, right? With this spot, it's like the whole point of this is to show off the casino, right? And I think it'd be easy to get lost in just like oh my God, we have Martin Short and this is so much fun, but like you still have a job to do, you know?
Yeah, and that was set up from the beginning. You know what I mean? The agency and and so on. We and the clients like, yeah, no, we know why we're here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and as long as like they okay, that's great. That's like we always say. One of my favorite like things to do, and it comes from like having worked on drink, beer, and alcohol brands on agency side for years. Is shoot the pack shot first. Like you know what I mean? Go and shoot the glistening Coke bottle. Do that first thing you do, and then everyone's relaxed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Okay, we've got the product shot, or the liquid moment. As I like to say.
Yeah.
And, we're done. So like, yeah, as long as up front we're like, okay, we're very clear. Like, this is going to be a great shot of the restaurant, brand new restaurant that you've done, and we're filling it with these characters.
Yeah.
But all nothing gel together. Like you can't just be fighting against client and trying. It's commercial filmmaking.
Yeah, for sure. How much say like once you're done in post, right? Like was Martin involved? Like did he want to see the final product?
They see the edit and then they have notes and that, and the song obviously meant that we got to go and do re-records with him and stuff. So. But yeah, no, he was super, super happy, you know what I mean? Which was really cool. Like, really cool moment. They do an inauguration event. I went back down to the casino when he was there, and Jane Lynch, and she's handing over the mayoralship to like Martin Short. And, then they played the ads, and just like seeing that response, to him and he was super happy. That was incredible.
That's cool. Do you? This might be a dumb question, but because I feel like I know your answer. But like, do you feel more pressure when you're like working with an actor like Martin Short, right? Especially once you get to know him and realize what a great person is. It's like there's times I've had this with clients where you get the job, you're like whatever, then you like realize how important this is to that client, and you're like okay, like it makes me want to work harder, right, and do a really good job for them. It kind of like I put that pressure on myself, but. Like this is kind of like Martin's brand is, I guess at stake. Like, do you ever like think about that or put that pressure on yourself when you're doing these type of jobs?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I do. To be honest, because I'm obviously like super excited like the moment I get there, and like of course I don't want to like be the person who like. Made Martin Short shit, you know what I mean? but it's like she's not gonna be.
Yeah,
right. As long as I've got like, I used to get probably like early days super nervous, right? Adrenaline. Yeah. Walk on a set, celebrities there. It's before I like had like came up with my routine, so to speak. So like, Then but then you quickly realize that you're surrounded by like amazing collaborators, and it's like it's not just you.
Yeah,
you can blame other people. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you can blame the TP, you can blame the production designer. You know what I mean? It's like, what do you mean it doesn't cut together? Like you blame the editor. It's like
yeah, right.
I know.
Were you pretty heavily involved in the edit on this one?
Yeah, massively.
Yeah, because that's
it's like it was. Yeah, we got to see this. I did the mix. I did the re-records. Working. Right. It was great. That's the collaborative nature with the agency and client.
That's awesome because that's like you were mentioning that earlier with like how it's different maybe in the States versus some places, and that's like one thing I never understood was why the director wouldn't be involved in the edit. Right? It's like you've hired this person for their vision, and there's so much stuff that happens on set that I think a lot of times the agency's not keen to if they're in Video Village or whatnot of like why a decision was made or how you want to cut something. It's kind of the same thing with like a DP in color. Like I've been having all my DPs in color just because there's sometimes they like lit a scene some way or like expose something in a certain way to be addressed a certain way in color, that I'm like maybe don't know about or forget about. So I've always liked having my DPs in color for that exact reason.
Yeah. I think it's Yeah, I don't mind that sometimes as well. But it's also like, yeah, just trying to figure out how to get to it. Like post can be a battle sometimes. Do you know? It's like the war of attrition on a cut, the multiple versions of a cut, and then like you're on V64 and like whatever. I always think that, I mean, that's just the nature of the process. If there's, and sometimes you got to like sweat it out and figure it out, fine. And then sometimes you're just dealing with multiple opinions. You know what I mean? And people aren't saying, well, okay, well, maybe in this situation, my opinion I should listen to the opinion or whatever. So, it comes back to being a director. Like you have to, obviously, you're working with the agency and you're delivering what, your client needs, but you should have a strong point of view on that. Do you know what I mean?
For sure. Well, we're getting close to time, so I want to get to the lightning round, but is there anything else you'd want to kind of talk about with the Harris campaign here?
I think we've covered most of the stuff there. I mean, obviously there's so much detail and there's so many moments, and then I do want to talk about the one thing on the song spot, showstopper spot that was important to us. Like I had this thing where I was like, I need it to sound live. You know what I mean? It needs to sound like big band live. We're in the resort casino, and so we did a live record, and that was something that Jeremy organized. So we went and scored this. The song is scored to the picture, and if you play the video, you can see one of the layers of music all the way through.
Oh yeah,
on that.
let me grab that. Cool. So this is like the brass section.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it's saying, but like,
or I guess there's drums too, percussion.
Yeah, I think we layered in some stuff as well. But you can, and according to Jeremy, who I was just talking to about this before we got on today, he was like, "This is a sloppy take." Because I love having those professionals with me. Just like, no, dial it in.
Yeah, this had to be so much fun.
Yeah,
like working with a band. Like, was there any kind of moments in this where like you guys were pivoting or musicians were
like? He would, but what if we did the trombone here like this, or this little thing here, you know what I mean? So there's all that, the spontaneity and just like making things better. And like, I'm always inspired by people who want to keep pushing things. Do you know what I mean? Like craft.
Yeah.
I did that early on in my advertising career, working with great typographers or designers or directors or DPs or whatever. Like if you want to push it and keep trying to make it better, then I'm all in. You know what I mean? In my mind, if we're just treating this as just, it's just in it. Look, I'm sure there's those ads where like, and I've done them too, and agency side where you're like, okay, this is never going to be great.
right?
When you have the opportunity to really dive in like this campaign and sweat every detail, do a live score. Bring in actual musicians. It's not just done on a computer with samples and things like that. And like, we don't want to go down an AI rabbit hole. But yeah, it's great, but like in some ways, but you can't beat a human being playing an instrument.
Yeah.
It's not, do you know what I mean? You can't, like, there's, you think about it, like, even if it's an electric guitar player or guitar like this. So there's something about doing this live that maybe you don't notice it if you're listening to it on your AirPods on the bus or, whatever, watching it on your phone, but it's there at least, and it adds tone. It adds tone, and just like all those little moments, to me, it's that detail's important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it does carry through. I mean, the spot has so much energy, and it's so much funner. But like I love like the end here, right? Like this little hit, it's hard to see probably in this video, but with the, where you're kind of on the exterior of the building and then it kind of flies out with the music, is just like such an awesome way to end it, and just kind of so like classic and cinematic, like, which I don't know if you could get if you were just kind of like splicing together samples versus actually scoring that,
No, music is crucial. Like everything is important, but like just getting the right music and stuff, and comedy is like, we cut a lot to jazz. You know what I mean? Like jazz music, because of the spontaneity, it can change tempo, it can switch. You know what I mean? Take you on a journey, and it's like, yeah. That's why music to me is super crucial. Soundtrack. I think on a project, if I get a script, the first thing I do is build a playlist.
Oh, nice.
I think about if music's part of it. Do you know what I mean? If it's a soundtrack, or if it's just dialogue back and forth, then fine, we don't have to stress about it. But one of the first things I'll do when I'm reading a script is start building a playlist on Spotify. And that's like the foundation of tone a lot of times.
All right, well, let's get to the lightning round here.
Yeah, but
So just
graphic. You know what I mean? Is there like a lightning instinct?
we're not at that level yet on the CDP. Maybe after this episode, we'll get there. Cool. So these can just be kind of like fast hitting. Don't think you have to like give some mind blowing answer here, but take them wherever you want. So number one is, what directors inspire you right now?
Yeah, I think there's obviously we've already spoken about a bunch like Coen Brothers and Edgar Wright, and I think and like there's commercial director like, say for example, Dougal Wilson. I love his similar to Edgar, right? Directors who appreciate music and the ability to stay, think about the rhythm. I love that so much. The timing, you know what I mean? Like Michel Gondry, for example, all those old like videos he did for Daft Punk and Chemical Brothers and stuff like that. Like, to me, I just love rhythmic, musical cuts and things like that. So I think those inspire me. And then I've also been inspired by a lot of like being on the agency side, directors who weren't so great. And I think, like people who annoyed me a lot when I was a creative, and I was like, learn what not to do. You know what I mean?
Totally.
That's especially people, directors didn't care. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm here and like treat you like shit.
Yeah.
And or just like sitting there, like, maybe trying to like, I don't know, design their lake house or something or whatever they're doing. Going back a few years, it's not like that anymore. But like, you know what I mean? It's I'm inspired by all sorts of things. I don't know really. Yeah.
No, I think that's a great point. I mean, that's how I got into directing as an editor. I was just like, so many times you were like working with like, or trying to work around people's fuck ups on set, and you're like, or not having a piece that you're like of coverage, and you're like, well, why didn't they get that? Why did they do this? So
probably a reason why they might have like oh yeah, the celebrity walked off set.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, it's like I get inspired by people who just want to like just roll up their sleeves and get into it and sweat the detail and have the discussion and all that sort of stuff.
Hell yeah. Well, what inspires you outside of directing?
I guess music, obviously, we've spoken about that. But then just, again, other art. I used to have a huge book collection, which unfortunately got lost in a certain fire in LA. So anyway, not going down that as well. But like, I think one of the things I love the most, my wife's a floral designer, and she did season 3 of the morning show, did the flowers for that, and just be able to see those creations, as they were coming to life. Just walk out there in the evenings, and we used to do it in the garage in the back of the house, but like just to be able to see that art like form in that garage, on a plinth that's inspiring. Do you know what I mean? So I've actually used a lot of florals in production design now, but like they just find those details. You know what I mean? Like you could just use plastic flowers, for example, fine. But what if you want more life and realism or something? So it's like, just trying to bring all of that inspiration into each frame is super crucial. And then like, the YouTube series that I love, like remember every frame of painting and watching, I grew up in Hong Kong, Asia, England, so I was inspired a lot by like Cantonese, Hong Kong cinema, for example, growing up. And, there's some brilliant like breakdowns on those YouTube series of like the difference between Western and Asian action films and how they cut things or how they don't cut things, for example. So like just filling my head with all that stuff is what really inspires me.
Right. And you mentioned kind of this earlier about like a tool that you can't live without, and that could be like, pre-pro, post production, and you mentioned the Bluetooth speaker.
Yeah.
But what else? Is there anything else?
Yeah, the Bluetooth speaker is my one thing. I have to have music. It's also just for my brain. Like I just need kind of silence.
Really quick on that, then, like what like what's kind of your go-to genre when you're on set?
it's all over the place. I have playlists and set different playlists for different vibes, different songs. I just go and I just play music, whatever. But it's like, but I also might want to pick up the energy, or I might want to like quieten it down or whatever. On a set, like music does that. It puts people at ease.
Yeah.
I was shooting in Bulgaria. I was shooting in Bulgaria for a Hitachi campaign, and just like we were in a concrete stage way out, like 30 minutes out of town, big concrete stage where they're built to like shoot pretty. They shot like Expendables 20 there or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're in that environment, but you're working, and it's like you've got this crew you've never worked with before, and you're in this foreign land, which I love, by the way. Like I grew up all around the place, so I'm like very comfortable in uncomfortable situations. But they're not uncomfortable because everyone speaks the same language. Play some music. Next thing you know, we're having a rave in the middle of this stage in Bulgaria. You know what I mean? Like, and this creates the vibe on the set, which transfers all the way to the picture.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
And then so music obviously, but then I used to when I was earlier on, I went and bought like a little gimbal thing. I thought I was gonna use it. Now I just use an iPhone. It just gets scrappy. I just film little sequences on my iPhone. I don't need to get complex. And I take photos. I used to have an iPad, and that's gone. So I used to sketch on that. That was fun. Build little notebooks. Now one thing I do is I keep one document, the director's deck, whatever. I build that in Canva, and I just throw like all, there'll be a page on titles, or there'll be a page on, like sequence on, like reference, and then I bring the storyboard in there, and I have this one Bible,
right?
I want, and I'll share that with people. I bring people in and go like, this is what we're doing. This is what we need to do. Yeah,
for sure.
And then my storyboard artist is the other, the other tool that is that's a terrible thing to say, but like,
no, for sure.
You need great storyboard artists.
And are you how detailed are your boards? Are they like just sketched, or are you doing like pretty finished style boards, or is it different every time?
I start with like little scribbles, or I'm just people with Rob, and then but then no detail. I have I don't like animated boards or anything like that. I hate animatics. They're soulless things. I like what my collaborator Rob does, and he just draws them, and it's got like speed lines on it from this comic book. Best storyboard artists are also comic book artists, because frame to frame, you know what I mean, like transitions. It's like, how do you keep a story flowing in a storyboard? Comic books, you know what I mean? That's like, if you want to learn about like filmmaking, read comics.
That's awesome. All right, so one thing we do on this show is we always have the previous guest leave a question for the next guest. So the last guest wants to know, if you treated your career like a business, what is the first investment you would make?
Yeah, I love that question. But I had the answer, I think, immediately, and that's just your reel. Like, because you're nothing without a reel, you know what I mean, as a director. It's like I was saying before, a client needs to see it almost on your spot, on your reel. You know, and it's like, can they do comedy? Can they do visual? Can they do drama? Can they do this, that, and the other? And like, you got to be able to show them that you can do it. Like, you almost have to have the exact spot sometimes. Do you know what I mean? So if you were treating your directing career as a business, there's only one thing that you should invest in, and that's your reel. So like, there have been directors who have done spec spots. There have been directors who have done short films. But my only advice there was, I did it obviously a different way. I bought the reel through in the agency, but like, yeah, I would, if I had money to invest in my career as a director, I would start shooting some 30-second and 15-second spots. And 15 and 30-second spots. And don't go out and try and create a 2.5-minute like short film about because, obviously we're just talking like hypothetically here as well, because to make a spec is like, but you have to show that you understand timing in a 30-second environment, 15, and within commercial filmmaking, you can't, there's parameters. You can't have a character come in and start swearing their heads off. So I've gotten away with one swear at once, Assassin principle. But so like even if you were investing in directing reel, I would make great ads with what I could, where I was investing. Just
Well, and without going too deep here, but that's a great point, because with your first reel, was it very like I guess like organized in the way that like, okay, you knew what you wanted to be as a director, and so all your spots were, kind of like that certain genre or whatnot, or was your reel kind of like all over the place?
all over the place.
Okay.
I was basically assembling a reel based on the opportunities that I could get my hands on. Mm-hmm. I think that's another important point as a director. It's like, it's not the, like when I first started in advertising, directors were just sort of like, I don't know, it was like mythological directors. Do you know what I mean? In some way, it's like, but it's like, it's now you got to be scrappier. Still, even if, no matter where you are in your career, it's like, it's a change game. What was the question? I completely went off.
Well, I guess I'll phrase it differently, because it's one thing I'm like struggling right now in my career is with like what my reel should look like and what should be on it, right? So it's like, should I like, cater the reel to be like, okay, all like kind of like one voice, let's call it, where it's like, okay, let's say it's all like comedy, right? Or is it okay to be like, okay, here's comedy, here's some like cinematic sports work, here's some maybe like anthemic work, or like a car spot? Or is it, if it's like that's the most important investment, should you be like, okay, you need to know what your lane is as a director and make it all like comedy, let's say?
Yeah, no, like great. Okay, you have to kind of like have a POV. Mm-hmm. So, but I also hate the idea of saying, "Oh, he's a comedy director."
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't mean I can't do visuals. Do you know what I mean? Or cars. The car thing to me is hilarious because it's like, shit. Has he ever shot cars before? And like, yeah, well, here's the car things he's done. But it's like, just get a great DP and shot cars. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every car commercial has the same shot. So maybe that's controversial. I don't know. Debate me. But I think every car commercial has the same exact amount of shots. Like, car commercial is funny. No,
Right.
That's harder.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Like, what you want to do is have a very strong, clear POV, right?
Yeah.
I would say if you had 6 spots that go like, this is who I am and the wannabe as director, and it has a thread through it, even though it could go from comedy to visual. You think about like, trying to think of, let's just take, I don't know, you have to kind of have a POV. So like, yeah, he does comedy. But like there should be within that like other things that you want to show that you can achieve, right? Like high visual production value if you got it, all that sort of stuff. But then you do need the second part of your reel, which is like the nature of it. Like not every job is going to be exactly that job. Like we make a joke about the car stuff, but it's like yeah, there should be another section to your reel, which is like here's cars, here's food, for example. Like I was always trying to get like you want to go and get like a Donald's commercial or Jack in the Box or whatever, right? If you don't have food on your reel, they're like, I can't do food. So it's trying to get into the showing that you can do food, cars, all those other things. Like you want to be covered. So I would start with a clear POV and then just show like, okay, but I can also do this.
Yeah, right. Well, and like why
the work? Let's go. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, this is gonna open a can of worms. Maybe because it's like just happened to me. We're getting like nixed on a job for not having a very specific thing on the reel, and I'm like, really? So from like, I want to know from your like kind of like creative director background why this is so important to agencies. Where I got put up for like I'm not gonna name the brand, but like a shaving brand, right? And I didn't have shaving shots on my reel, and so they were like, oh, you're immediately like eliminated. Like that was the number one thing, was like my reps were like, oh, you got a lot of great work, but do you have any shaving? They said like, if you don't have shaving on your reel, it's an absolute no-go. And I was like, well, I don't have shaving.
First of all, I think that's just dumb.
Yeah.
It's just dumb. But I understand why though. It's because of the multiple layers of people that you've got to get through. So you got the client thing, and I think that'll be like a trust, whatever. But like agent's client, but it's like clients often just want to see it on someone's reel, so they feel comfortable. Like guys, they're going to get like the shot of like the shave thing. It's like, but it's silly.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, it's just like I've had that. I've had that happen so many times. Do you know what I mean? Like, right. Yeah, it's like the same thing with DPs, right? Every DP's reel is dark.
Yeah.
Because they love to be all moody and like cynic, like, there's no light whatsoever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like everything is dark, and the clients freak out about that because they're like, "No, we're shooting a Beans commercial." Do you know what I mean? Like, we're not shooting the opening to Handmaid's Tale. Do you know what I mean? So it's like we need bright. It needs to be bright, and then brighten up like that. Those are other conversations and whatever. But like, yeah. So you kind of have to have a bit of everything in today's world, and then you also have to be, have a clear point of view.
For sure. All right. Well, last question is if you would leave a question for the next guest.
Okay. Speaking of Bean commercials, my question is this: like, what legendary director would you like to see shoot a Bush Beans commercial, and why?
All right. I absolutely love that.
Yeah. Like, Goddard, for example, they used to do a lot of commercials and things like that. You can go and watch on YouTube and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, what legendary director would you want to see a Bush Beans commercial from?
That is so good, especially because I think I know who's going to be the next guest, and they specialize in food is their thing. So I think that'll be a great question for them. So, well, Cam, I really appreciate it, man. This was great. I know we went over time a little bit, but there's so much good shit, and I really appreciate you jumping on the show. This was super fun.
Thanks for having me, mate. Like, as always, I reserve the right to be wrong. Great incorrect statements, and change my mind. You know what I mean? So, posters coming out. I mean, I could feature in it, but like, no, I appreciate it. I think, commercial filmmaking is like, so often everyone's thinking like, oh, it's just, commercial director or whatever. Like, they want to. Everyone's got aspirations in film and television, but it's a very specific type of direction. It's not film and television. It's and so like, I love it when people embrace that and not just treat it as sort of an afterthought, because you can make great work. There's, if you go back to Jonathan Glazer's work for like, Guinness and all those like iconic commercials. My favorite commercial of all time is Blackcurrant Tango. Sebastian, just the epic nature of that. It's a one joke about someone writing in and complaining about like the flavor of Blackcurrant Tango, and the whole spot. I don't know how much money they spent on it. It's just them saying "fuck you" to that person who wrote in that complaint. And I just love that. Like, that's what commercials can be so great. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've had the opportunity on the agency side to come up with ideas like, rubber chicken rocket cars, for example, for like, beer commercials. And then all of a sudden we're in Argentina shooting, or walking into a warehouse where a giant rubber chicken's being built. You know what I mean? Like, in commercials, you can and you can jump from one month to the other, different projects. So it's a very different type of directing, obviously a lot of scenarios, but embracing it and like treating it as the art it can be. I love that. So yeah, thank you for letting me ramble.
You bet, man. Yeah, anytime. Cool.
Awesome. Cut.
Sweet. Cut. Stop the show.
Should have, man.
All right, that does it for another show. Thanks for watching the Commercial Directors Podcast, and please subscribe to the show on any of the platforms where you listen to your podcast and on YouTube. YouTube's a great place where you can actually watch the breakdown, so make sure you subscribe. Also, give us a follow on the gram at the Commercial Directors Pod, and please DM us there. We would love to hear from you on potential guests you'd like on the show and what topics you want to learn more about. Or you can email me at evan@swinehartco.com, and that's SWINEHARTCO.com.